Hello, Eric Walczykowski here, CEO of Bespoke Partners and host of Tailored Talent. Today, I'm joined by Vitaly Gordon, CEO and founder of Faros AI. Vitaly, welcome to the show.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you being here. And obviously, we're going to be talking about a pretty hot topic in the world today, AI. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about Faros AI and how you came up with the concept to start the business.
Yeah, so Faros AI began as an idea where I was at Salesforce and I was running their machine learning and AI practice, today known as Salesforce Einstein. And what we did is we provided kind of these AI capabilities to Salesforce's customers across sales, service, marketing, and all of the verticals that Salesforce operates in. And at some point, I realized that, hey, we're building all these capabilities for Salesforce's customers, but we actually are not using these capabilities ourselves to improve our day-to-day jobs, which is, engineering, and kind of started working on it because, I believe that really kind of AI will have a large impact on engineering as well. And that turned out to be kind of very correct. And that is actually where the idea came from.
No, fantastic. So tell me a little bit about what you do at Faros AI for your customers.
So on a very high level, we help engineering teams and organization to become more data driven. That is really kind of, it's a little bit kind of funny that engineering is probably one of the least data-driven organizations in any kind of modern company. I'm saying, especially when you compare it to sales and service and finance and other kind of functions. And this is not to lack of kind of math skills on the engineers, right? It's also the organization that has probably the highest ratio of STEM graduates, right? But it also kind of the least data driven. So what we do is we really kind of make all of the data of kind of the software development lifecycle available to engineering leaders to understand really what goes on in their company from what we call from idea to production. Really kind of, an idea just forms and then, think about kind of the factory that produces code, even though code is kind of this like intangible good. Actually, the process is fairly similar to manufacturing. You have the development, then you have the quality assurance, then you have the kind of build and deploy stages and all of that. And each one of these stages can be optimized, can be observed, monitored, and really like there are real bottlenecks in these spaces. So like an example would be if we work for a customer and now that customer is really kind of trying to increase feature velocity by hiring more engineers, that is not money well spent. So we help organization on identifying these bottlenecks, resolve them, and really to improve their overall velocity, quality, satisfaction, and those kind of things.
No, that's fantastic. And I think we share a belief, or we're both big believers in data and data-driven decisions. Talk to me a little bit about how you diagnose the bottleneck. Are you using the bolus of data across all of your customers? Are you doing diagnosis on specific organizations you work with? Talk to me a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So what we do, and we actually most of it we do with inside the organization using their data, and sometimes there's also an ample of kind of industry benchmarks. This is kind of another thing that people don't realize about engineering. Everyone today is familiar with the various SaaS metrics, CAC to LTV ratio, NRR, what is good. And people don't realize there's actually a lot of good engineering metrics for that as well. So the problem with the research is it's actually extremely hard to find, to kind of actually even determine those, because the engineering tech stack is so fragmented. We have like hundreds of tools and there is no like Salesforce of that world that is this like one single pane of glass that actually has all the data neatly organized together. So this is what we provide at Faros AI, is that we connect to over 100 of these systems and we collect all the data. We'll kind of standardize and really kind of help to organize it similar to like what an ERP system would do for kind of finance and manufacturing. And then we kind of, measure a lot of these kind of industry benchmarks, and we give organizations like what they look compared to the industry, but also within, especially in large organizations, if they have business units, if they have teams within those business units, also, what are the good teams look like? What are they doing, and what can be learned from that?
No, that's fantastic. And how does a typical project go? You come in, you do a diagnosis, you make some recommendations. Is that how it works?
So a typical project would look like is like we would come in and we will connect to all of their systems, and we will perform kind of a diagnostic. So actually, we sometimes, as we were talking before we started recording, we sometimes go to market with partners like strategic consulting companies, and kind of the story we tell is if those consultants are kind of the expert specialists in kind of the medical industry, you think of us as the MRI machine, right? We will give you every single kind of number in diagnostics that you can kind of get all of these kind of benchmarks and know where the problem might lie.
And then, of course, where to invest to become more efficient and get better return on your engineering dollars.
And this is, I think, the really kind of where the ROI goes. It's it's not a secret that these digital transformation projects, right? Like they start with the best of intentions, but end up taking like a decade, to almost like complete, right? And there's like 10 years later, and still some companies are not kind of even fully done with their initiative. And really where we find the problems is, again, so going similar to the bottlenecks, is if you don't prioritize really kind of where and the biggest needle movers are, because you don't establish the baseline, you go and you start fixing things that actually have very little bearings on kind of the overall, let's say, productivity or efficiency of the project. Because if something is not the bottleneck, then fixing it will actually not improve almost anything, right? You will feel better about yourself, you will everyone will pat themselves on the back, but actually the organization will not yield. So what we help organizations is saying, hey, you know what, like, for example, the first thing that you should be doing is to move to, let's say, continuous deployment, right? That is really where the bottlenecks are. That is where all the time being lost. So let's focus on that, and that helps them to achieve similar results, but in a much shorter time frames.
So you mentioned digital transformation, and I'm sure we work with a number of private equity firms. So they acquire a business, and one of the value creation levers is digital transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So they bring you in on day one to say, hey, can you analyze what's gone on in the past and where we place our bets to expedite this digital transformation in the future? Is that accurately stated?
Yeah, and actually, private equity firms are part of the partners that bring us in as because they really understand of how kind of like the importance of kind of squeezing every dollar and making it count. And I think historically, like you said, the private equity playbook was like, hey, let's do digital transformation, let's give you best practices around sell, around customer success, around that. But I think more and more we come to the world where technology really matters, right? And like a lot of really the differentiation comes to the quality of the technology and the velocity and the innovation of the organization. Think about just the automobile industry. Like the reason why Tesla is the most valuable car manufacturer in the world, almost like all the others combined, right, is not because Tesla is a better kind of, in terms of quality, and it's not because they are, breaks less. Like I own a Tesla. Honestly, I have no idea whether, it has less failures than a Toyota. That's not why I bought my Tesla. It's because they innovate much faster than all of their competitors, right? Like, I bought a Tesla, I don't know, 5 years ago now, and it's actually a better car today than it was when I bought it, which is a highly unusual. So this is what we
in the automotive industry for sure.
Yeah, and exactly. And this is what we believe, that quality is mostly a table stake kind of game today, and it's actually innovation that matters. And this is where we believe the next kind of addition to a private equity playbook is to actually also how to drive innovation in a more efficient manner.
No, that's fantastic. Well, I want to zoom out a bit if we can. I mean, as an AI expert, heading into 2024, a number of our clients, one of the top initiatives they had is, well, how am I going to deploy AI throughout the organization. And so I want to just ask you a broader based question. We talked a little bit about engineering and what you're doing to help deploy it in engineering. But let's back up, and I'm the CEO of a software company. What am I looking at for AI right now, and what are some quick wins across the organization?
So I'm, also happen to be a CEO of just a small company, and this is quite honestly one of the things that I'm probably spend the most time thinking on. And even though we have a very kind of AI savvy organization, you can never do too much because just the velocity of the tools and that are available to you, and like there is literally every single kind of function inside an organization will completely transform. So the thing that I encourage my team to do is just to try everything, and I actually also kind of tell them the following. I'm saying, here's the reality: those AI tools, and it's whether you pick a vertical tool or you pick more kind of horizontal ChatGPT like tool, it doesn't matter. They are now at the level of almost like an intern, right? It's like a kind of a maybe someone who's still in undergrad, and and they will become better with time. Imagine, and this is really kind of the opportunity cost that I'm saying, imagine if you now got an intern to every single member of your organization, and no one was using that intern. Those interns would be just sitting idly on the side waiting to be kind of somehow used, right? That would be a completely unacceptable level of waste that no CEO would ever accept. And my argument is we actually are exactly in the same position. It's just this intern is 3 orders of magnitude cheaper.
Yep. No, makes a lot of sense. And so when I think about that again as an organization, how do I select a tool? And then, AI has transformed so much. I mean, my first exposure to AI was more of an ML application back, 15 years ago. And I think about the rapid pace of technology innovation, making bets today. The velocity is so much higher. So how do I go about assessing a tool and deciding to place a bet?
So I'm saying this is actually let's start with the most important thing is just choose a tool and go all in on that. I think it matters far less, and this is actually one of the things that we are currently doing in a big part of our business is actually assessing kind of some of these coding assistants that are now become very popular in engineering. And there's so much actually time being spent on trying one coding assistant versus other, where the problem is what percentage of your engineering workforce using any coding assistant? That is actually where the most of the problem. So I'm saying first, have people pick any tool they want and just make those budgets available, because the more you learn to work with them, you kind of will develop this tool is good for this might be good for that, and just start everyone kind of using the tools, because I think that is where we will see that, and you kind of already start seeing it, that even among the foundational models, you start seeing some sort of convergence towards some use cases versus the other. So basically, I will start with the advice of just make sure that people are using, and I think the which one in particular is actually less important.
No, that's fantastic. Well, Vitaly, thank you so much for joining Tailored Talent today and talking to us about one of the most important technologies, as you mentioned, in our lifetime. And I truly believe it is going to transform the way we do work. And I just appreciate your expertise. And as this continues to shape up, would love to have you back in the future.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day.